Welcome to Mccrackins Corner. We are with Mike Jarecki from Downpour. He's our guest today. How you doing today, Mike?
How are you?
Oh, I can't complain.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Mike, you've been drumming in Downpour now for how long?
Let's see. Math. Close to 20 years.
Close to 20 years?
Yeah, we're coming up on 20 for being official and just a little over 20 just being with Chris.
So, prior to the 20 years, when you originally got involved in music, what took you to that place?
So
what was your inspiration?
Music was part of my family growing up. My dad was in a band since he was like 5 years old. He played every week, every weekend.
And what kind of music did they play?
He was in mostly a wedding band, so they did top 40, whatever was current at the time.
Okay.
A little bit of 50s and 60s stuff. Just real entertainer.
So did you used to go to the bands and watch them?
I'd seen him a couple times at some events, but it was mostly, I was pretty young at the time, but he would always be practicing in the garage. So my dad could play the drums, he was the singer, and for a long time my uncle as well, my mother's brother, was the drummer in his band. So it was just a big family affair. So it was always
so there's a lot of music, in your family.
Yeah, always music going on.
Interesting.
Always something happening in the garage. My dad was always practicing with the guys. So it was just in my blood.
So when you started getting into music,
The first instrument I actually played was the piano, and that was really.
oh, so you wanted to play, but you actually never played it?
Yeah, like I never really got any lessons, did anything with it. So I started fiddling around on the piano, and that was just through circumstances. You know, we were at a friend's house who had a keyboard or something, or one of the guys in my dad's band had a keyboard.
Yeah, what did you play on the piano?
It was just messing around. Anything I could imitate was all by ear.
Okay.
So I'd hear something and I'd get the melody going, and then I'd kind of, hit the little beat button.
So how old were you at this time?
I mean, that probably started at 6 or 7.
6 or 7, so
And then
3rd, 4th grade or something like that. Also really young. Okay.
Real early. And that was really it for the longest time. I was just kind of fiddling around. Nothing serious. I mean, as a little kid.
Did you ever get into the guitar? Or?
No. I remember looking at a guitar just kind of dumbfounded like I do today. Just couldn't get my hands, couldn't get my fingers to work, couldn't figure it out.
So you played the piano for a while?
Late middle school, early high school,
okay.
I started going to a lot of festivals with my father and my stepmother. Summer festivals, seeing bands that we liked. And we would see one band in particular that we started following together. That was the Buckinghams, Chicago rock band.
Oh, sure, yeah.
50s and 60s stuff. And I was just kind of like fixated on rock and roll at the time. My dad and I would go see a show. It was like every weekend in the summer. And at the time,
festivals outside.
The festivals, right,
okay.
Right. Because I was too young to go to major concerts at the time. We'd always go see the Buckinghams, and the Buckinghams at the time had this drummer, amazing drummer, Tom Shekel.
Sure.
Who was with them for probably 20
Up until about 5 years ago,
just
actually.
very recently. Yeah. And guy was a beast, and just like that was it. I'm like, I want to play the drums, and I was like, my dad plays drums, my uncle plays drums, Tom Shekel plays the drums. This is it. This is what I'm going to do. And so for me, like drumming was just like hitting my legs. For years, I hit my legs. Like never any lessons, never any drums. I was always
as you were going to the summer festivals,
beating on stuff all the time. My parents were just like my stepfather was just crazy. He's like, stop hitting stuff. I was always hitting the counters, making different sounds, doing beats all day long.
So you had the itch.
Yeah, absolutely. Drums was just like, gotta do this.
So when does Mike get his first drum set?
So the drum set comes around '94 for me. So I was a freshman in high school. My dad got me a drum set for Christmas. It was this giant beast of a kid that was some guy, I think in Carpentersville. He was playing for a church band. He had this massive set, and whatever the circumstances were, he had to leave the set behind and was selling it for dirt cheap. So my dad picked it up. He's like, "All right, here you go.
Nice.
See what you can do." And it was just way more set than I could even play.
Did you decide to take music lessons at that time?
Most of it was still self-taught.
It was.
Honestly, it was self-taught. I did eventually join band in high school, which is when I met Chris, just a little thereafter, and started doing marching band, marching snare.
I'm curious, do you have to know how to read music to play the drums?
You don't have to.
Is there a benefit to
You
it?
can.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because you're sitting behind. I don't know if it's all done sound and repetition, or is there a benefit to actually reading the music to playing the drums?
For me, it was two different styles. You know, when I'd sit down to read, it was more to make sure that I'm playing a part as prescribed.
But knowing that you have to be, you're the heart, basically. I mean, you're the beat, you know. And how do you know by sound what that beat's going to be?
But that's hard to explain. It's just, I guess, just all those years of just kind of like hitting things and getting different tones off of different surfaces. You get a feel for, you know, where in the musical scale certain things should be.
Well, I mean, could you play the same song and do a different type of beat and it wouldn't be noticed? Or do you do that? I don't know.
Sometimes when we would practice, I'd throw in, you know, completely a Latin beat to an AC/DC song, and everybody's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" But it's still in time, and then switch back to the real beat, so you can play around with it.
Oh, so the band realizes that you're changing it up.
Yeah, like, wait, what are you doing?
Does the audience realize it's being changed up?
I would guess only a few astute audience members are really paying attention. You know, it's really just the front show. It's Chris and Red out front doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, as long as I'm keeping the time, I don't think the audience. I want the audience to notice.
When you do a drum solo, because I've seen you do it, how's it organized in your mind?
It's usually different. For a while, we were doing some Zeppelin stuff, so we would do rock and roll. And at the very end of rock and roll, there's this big drum outro, big drum fill, and that's where the solos used to originate from. So it would start with that, and I'd do the John Bonham fills solo just kind of as close as I could do it, but then extend it and just kind of groove off of it for a little while, and then kind of come back, you know, just big fanfare with cymbals. Years later, it was just kind of whatever it felt like. You know, start with a beat, do something fast, double pedals.
It's just so second nature.
Yeah, just do a beat, stick to a groove. You kind of looking for a build up and then a release.
You ever blow out a drum skin?
Once, many years ago, I did. I broke a head. I actually broke the snares themselves. Popped off. It was faulty hardware on the side. Something rusted off. It was an old head or an old drum. I'm usually pretty good. I go through cymbals more than I do go through drum heads.
Really?
Yeah.
What happens to those?
They crack from the middle. So
Oh, they do?
start getting a crack and then it just radiates out.
Oh, from hitting them
Yeah.
with the stick?
You look at it. If you've ever seen a cymbal in slow motion, it's just the most violent looking thing. It's like the whole cymbal bending.
I've seen a lot of cymbals now within the last 10 years where they have holes in them.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of
So
that?
it lightens up the sound a little bit. And I don't know if you've ever heard what's called a China cymbal. It's a real trashy sound. It's not a clean crash. It's just kind of a shh.
Yeah.
It's really long decay. The holes give it kind of that longer decay, but it reduces the volume in some of the high frequencies. So,
But that doesn't protect the cymbal from getting damaged.
no, if anything, those probably take a little more damage because they're flexing in weird ways.
And then what about the drumsticks? Did you go through a lot of those?
You get through sticks a lot, yeah. I don't typically crack sticks. What happens is with the AC/DC, I'm doing a lot of rim shots, so the one particular place on the drumstick just starts to shred. It looks like sawdust underneath me every show.
I heard when you set up when you put a drum setup on stage, which I didn't know, but I've heard it and I've actually seen it where they put a carpet down and they put the drums down on the carpet, and I asked why you put the carpet down. Is it to absorb the sound? And he said no, because when you hit the drums, it wants to walk off the stage.
Exactly. For me, I carry a carpet wherever I go, and it's just because stuff slides around. You get into a hard stage, and when you're hitting it, you're balancing the stage, is vibrating. You know, the guitars are vibrating the stage. Everything just kind of walks away.
And then you have markers on it.
I've got everything kind of marked to know where I need to be. Sometimes it's Sharpie, sometimes it's little pieces of silver tape so you can't see it.
And did you ever play where you forgot your carpet or something?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And the whole show you're like holding on to stuff.
Oh, really? Stuff really moves that
I remember Chris pushing my bass drum back to me every couple minutes. Yeah.
Now, other than AC/DC or any other band, is there a drum? What would it be, a drum riff? I don't know what you would call it. that you enjoy to do.
I just like getting into a groove of stuff. You know, I was always a weird kid with music. Like I kind of grew up on the 50s, 60s rock, so I'll go back to that a lot when I'm practicing alone and just play a groove. If I'm feeling something a little more aggressive, something a little more modern, it would be like 2000s alternative rock. Usually something from grunge era. The stuff I would love to be able to really master would be Danny Carey and Tool. You know, that's sort of like the pinnacle for me. I can only do so much of that, but.
And how long can you sit down on your? Because I know you have to sit to play. How long can you sit down on your drums and play before you actually need to take a break?
Well, we usually do about 2-hour sets now. We don't take breaks. We found that it just keep the crowd going, just like a real AC/DC show.
So it's 2-hour set and you're done.
It's about 2 hours, and yeah, I mean, you're giving it all you got the whole time.
You gotta
so.
break out the stadium, pal.
Then I'm ready. Just get me on the ground, yeah. Oxygen tank.
Is there a favorite manufacturer you like to use for your drums?
I play Yamaha drums, but I actually really like for not touring, for studio stuff, I like Pearl.
You like Pearl?
Makes a really good drum set, yeah. It'd be a reference series that's just top quality.
And is there anything that you could recommend to a wannabe drummer that wants to get into a band? What they could do to become a drummer like yourself, where you just kind of picked it up on your own?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I think are really important. One is time. Like, be consistent with time. Like, you know, I'd say playing simple stuff at a slow tempo and just mastering that is very important. Because if you can't keep a beat at a slow tempo, you're not going to keep a beat at a fast tempo. That's number one. Just time. Play with a metronome. Get to feel that time.
I see a lot of drummers. Some of them, they have like a glass partition put around. What is the purpose of that?
It's all sound control, right? It depends on the room and then who's running the sound out front. They want to be able to prevent the drums from bleeding out on their own and just use the microphones.
Now, did you ever do that?
We played a couple places that they liked to do that. It's really weird for me because I can't hear the guys like I'm used to. Like, it's quiet. It's quiet for me.
Oh, it's that soundproof.
Yeah.
It
it blocks enough to where you're not getting the same kind of feedback that you're used to. It was a little weird, you know, with the monitor situation. You know, you're just hearing certain things, not everybody.
So if the drums are being contained that way, so it's just you're only allowed to put that sound out through the speakers then, correct?
Right.
So you have to control the amount of speaker sound that's coming out.
Right. So that you just hope you've got a good sound person and that you got a good relationship.
But you being behind the drums, you have no idea.
No.
You have no idea what it sounds like out there because.
I mean, most of the time you don't really know what's coming out front anyway.
No.
At least for me, I wish I could get up and hear us.
Now you talked about the foam you put in between the speakers and the drum set, which is to deaden the noise. But when you have the speakers, you said you have those speakers turned all the way up, and then does that cause like feedback on the microphones that are picking up the sound that you have?
No, they can set the gain on the mic. I'm pretty sure it's probably pretty low with it being that loud. But those old amps, like I said, that Tom plays a 73 and I play a 71 Marshall. Their tone is up around 8 to 10. That's when you get the real good, you know, vintage rock and roll crunch.
And can you get that in a modern day?
You can, but then the touch feel is not there. You know, the organic between you and the amp.
I see.
It's really something to play a vintage amp like that.
Like these guys are playing tube amps, so that's why when they're cranking it, there's a certain sound that's coming out of those tubes at a certain volume.
Mike, thank you for coming to Mccrackins Corner. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
This is the esteemed drummer from Downpour. Go check them out. They're on the internet. McCracken out!